morning. Today, my topic of presentation is metabolic acidosis and moderator is edema. Metabolic acidosis. Metabolic acidosis is a condition that occurs when the body produces excessive quantities of an acid or when kidneys are not able to remove enough acid from the body. It can occur because of an increase in endogenous acid production, such as lactate and keto acids, or loss of bicarbonate, as in diarrhea, or accumulation of endogenous acids because of inappropriately low excretion of net acid by the kidney, as in chronic kidney disease. So, this fall in blood pH is accompanied by profound effects on respiratory, cardiac, and nervous systems. There will be a characteristic increase in ventilation, especially the tidal volume, which is known as Kussmaul respiration, and intrinsic cardiac contractility may be depressed, but inotropic function can be normal because of the catecholamine release. Both peripheral arterial vasodilatation and central venoconstriction can be present. The decrease in central and pulmonary vascular compliance predisposes to pulmonary edema with even minimal volume overload, and the CNS function is depressed with headache, lethargy, stupor, and in some cases even coma may be present. Glucose intolerance may also occur. There are two major categories of clinical metabolic acidosis, that is non-anion gap acidosis and high anion gap acidosis. The presence of metabolic acidosis in normal anion gap and hyperchloremia denotes the presence of a normal anion gap acidosis. And causes of high anion gap metabolic acidosis are lactic acidosis, ketoacidosis, which may be diabetic, alcoholic, starvation, and due to toxins like ethylene glycol, methanol, salicylates, propylene glycol, and pyroglutamic acid, and in renal failure, which is acute or chronic. So this anion gap can be defined as sodium plus unmeasured cations must be equal to chloride plus bicarb plus unmeasured anions, and it is a quantity of anions not balanced by cations, usually due to the negatively charged plasma proteins, as the charges of the other unmeasured cations and anions tend to balance out, and normal anion gap is 6 to 12 millimole per liter. So approach to metabolic acidosis. So anion gap, if it is normal, we should go to the history of GI fluid loss. If it's present, the acidosis may be due to diarrhea, ileostomy, or enteric fistula. If it's not due to fluid loss, search for urine pH. If it's less than 5.5, serum potassium should be seen. If it's low, it is proximal RTA type 2, and if it's high, it's type 4 RTA, and if it's if urine pH is greater than 5.5, it is distal RTA type 1, and if there is a high anion gap metabolic acidosis, osmolar gas should be seen. Normal osmolar gap can be seen in uremia, lactate, keto acids, and salicylate poisoning, and increased osmolar gap as will be seen in ethylene glycol and methanol. So initially we will measure the ABGs and determination whether diabetes mellitus is present or not to rule out diabetic ketoacidosis, and a search for evidence of alcoholism or increased level of beta hydroxybutyrate to rule out alcoholic ketoacidosis, and observation of clinical signs of uremia and determination of blood urea, nitrogen, and creatinine, that is uremic acidosis, and we must inspect urine for oxalate crystals for ethylene glycol, and recognition of numerous clinical settings in which lactate may be increased, like hypotension, shock, cardiac failure, leukemia, cancer, and drug or toxic ingestion, and management of lactic acidosis. So the underlying condition should be corrected preemptively. Vasoconstrictors should be avoided if possible because they worsen tissue perfusion. Alkali therapy is generally advocated for acute severe ischemia, pH less than 7, to improve cardiovascular function. A reasonable approach is to infuse sufficient sodium bicarbonate to raise the arterial pH to no more than 7.2 or bicarb to no more than 12 over 30 to 40 minutes. And sodium bicarb therapy can cause fluid overload and hypertension because the amount required can be massive and accumulation of lactic acid is relentless. Ketoacidosis. It might be due to diabetic ketoacidosis, where increased fatty acid metabolism and accumulation of keto acids, acetoacetate and beta hydroxybutyrate, cessation of insulin or an intercurrent illness which increases insulin requirements temporarily and acutely. Keto acids accounts for the increment in the anionic gap and is accompanied most often by hyperglycemia greater than 300 mg per dl. So the relation between this anionic gap and bicarbonate is usually 1:1 in DKA. Bicarbonate therapy is rarely needed except with extreme acidemia less than 7.1. Patients with DKA are typically volume depleted and require fluid resuscitation with isotonic saline. The mainstay for treatment, however, is IV regular insulin. Alcoholic ketoacidosis. Chronic alcoholics can develop ketoacidosis when alcohol consumption is abruptly curtailed and nutrition is poor. Acidosis may be severe because of elevated ketones, predominantly beta hydroxybutyrate. Mixed acid-base disorders are common in AKA. As the circulation is restored by administration of isotonic saline, the preferential accumulation of beta hydroxybutyrate is then shifted to acetoacetate. Patients with AKA usually present with relatively normal renal function as opposed to DKA, where renal function is often compromised because of volume depletion or diabetic nephropathy. The AKA patient with normal renal function may excrete relatively large quantities of keto acids in the urine. Treatment: extracellular fluid deficits almost always accompany AKA and should be repleted by IV administration of saline and glucose. Hypophosphatemia, hypokalemia, and hypomagnesemia may coexist and should be monitored carefully and corrected when indicated. Hypophosphatemia typically emerges 12 to 24 hours after admission, may be exacerbated by glucose infusion, and if severe may induce rhabdomyolysis or even respiratory arrest. Drug and toxin-induced acidosis. Salicylate intoxication in adults usually causes respiratory alkalosis or a mixture of high anion gap, metabolic acidosis, and respiratory alkalosis. Only a portion of the anion gap is due to salicylates. Lactic acid production is also often increased. Treatment includes vigorous gastric lavage with isotonic saline, not with the sodium bicarb, should be initiated immediately, and all patients should receive at least 1 round of activated charcoal per nasogastric tube, 1 gram per kg up to 50 grams. And in the acidotic patient, to facilitate removal of salicylate, IV soda bicarb is administered in amounts required to alkalize the urine. And to maintain urine output, to maintain urine pH greater than 7.5, because raising the urine pH from 6.5 to 7.5 increases salicylate clearance fivefold. And patients with coexisting respiratory alkalosis should also receive soda bicarb, but with caution to avoid excessive alkalemia. Acetazolamide may be administered in case of alkalemia when an alkaline diuresis cannot be achieved, or to ameliorate volume overload associated with soda bicarb administration. But this drug can cause systemic metabolic acidosis if the excreted bicarb is not replaced, a circumstance that can markedly reduce the salicylate clearance. And alcohols. Usually plasma osmolality is calculated according to uh, formulas like plasma osmolality equals 2 times sodium plus glucose plus blood urea and hydrogen. If osmolates other than sodium, salts, glucose, or urea have accumulated in the plasma, the difference between the calculated osmolality and the measured osmolality is proportional to the concentration of the unmeasured solute. 3 alcohols cause fatal intoxication: ethylene glycol, methanol, and isopropyl alcohol. All causes an elevated osmolar gap, but only the first 2 cause high anion gap acidosis. Isopropyl alcohol ingestion does not typically elevate the anion gap unless extreme overdose causes hypertension and lactic acid acidosis. And ethylene glycol This combination of high anion gap and high osmolar gap is highly suspicious for ethylene glycol or methylene intoxication. The diagnosis is further enabled by recognition of oxalate crystals in the urine, and treatment is the prompt infusion of a saline or osmotic diuresis, thiamine and thyrotoxin supplements, omeprazole, and usually hemodialysis. The IV administration of alcohol dehydrogenase inhibitor omeprazole is the agent of the choice. Propylene glycol, like ethylene glycol and methanol, is metabolized by alcohol dehydrogenase. With intoxication by propylene glycol, the first response is to stop the abnormal infusion. Additionally, omeprazole should be administered in acute patients. Ingested isopropyl alcohol is absorbed rapidly and may be fatal when as little as 150 ml of working alcohol solvent or dicer is consumed. Plasma level of greater than 400 mg per dl is life-threatening. High annual acidosis is not present because acetone is rapidly excreted. Both isopropyl alcohol and acetone increases the osmolar gap, and hypoglycemia is associated with it. Treatment includes supportive therapy, IV fluids, SRs, ventilatory support if needed, occasionally hemodialysis for prolonged coma, hemodynamic instability, or levels greater than 400 mg. The hyperchloremic acidosis of moderate CKD is eventually converted to high anion gap acidosis of advanced renal failure. Uric acidosis in advanced CKD is characterized therefore by a reduced rate of ammonia production and excretion, and alkaline salts from the bone buffer the acid retained in the chronic kidney disease. So, treatment of the metabolic acidosis of chronic kidney disease. Oral alkali replacement with relatively modest amounts of alkali 1 to 1.5 millimole per kg body weight per day, and either soda bicarb tablets or sodium citrate solution is effective. Non-anion gap metabolic acidosis. These are the various causes of non-anion gap metabolic acidosis. Alkali may be lost from gastrointestinal tract as a result of diarrhea or from the kidneys due to renal tubular abnormalities causing renal tubular acidosis. And instead of any acid urine pH, urine pH is usually greater than 6 because metabolic acidosis and hypokalemia increases renal synthesis and excretion of bicarb, thus providing a urinary buffer that increases urinary pH. And other causes are like drug-induced hypokalemia due to potassium sparing diuretics, trimethoprim, pentamidine, AC inhibitors, and ARPs, and others like acid loads, loss of potassium bicarbonate, expansion, acidosis, equilibrium, and cation. Proximal renal tubular acidosis is the most often due to generalized proximal tubular dysfunction and listed by glycosuria, generalized aciduria, and phosphaturia, that is the Fanconi syndrome. When the plasma bicarb is low, the urine pH is acid, pH less than 5.5, but exceeds 5.5 with alkali therapy. The fractional excretion of bicarb may exceed 10 to 15% when the bicarb is greater than 20 millimole per liter, because bicarb is not reabsorbed normally in the proximal tubule. Therapy with soda bicarb will enhance the delivery of bicarb to distal nephron and enhance renal potassium secretion, thereby causing hypokalemia. Classic distal RTA includes hypokalemia and non-anion gap metabolic acidosis, low urinary ammonia excretion, and inappropriately high urine pH greater than 5.5. Most patients have hypocytinuria and hypercalciuria, so nephrolithiasis, nephrocalcinosis, and bone diseases are common. In general, generalized distal RTA, hyperkalemia is disproportionate to the reduction in the glomerular filtration rate because of the coexisting dysfunction and of potassium and acid secretion. Urinary ammonium excretion is invariably depressed and kidney function may be compromised, for example, due to diabetic nephropathy, obstructive uropathy, or chronic tuberous interstitial disease. And and hyporenemic hypoaldosteronism typically causes non-anion gap metabolic acidosis, most commonly in older adults with diabetic mellitus or tuberous interstitial disease and CKD. Patients usually have mild to moderate CKD and acidosis with elevation in serum potassium, concurrent hypertension, and congestive heart failure. NSAIDs, trimethoprim, pentamidine, angiotensin-converting enzyme inhibitors, ARBs can also increase the risk for hyperkalemia and non-anionic metabolic acidosis in patients with CKD. This is the table representing different types of inner tubular acidosis as discussed earlier. And the typical radiological feature of type 1 RTA being necrocalcinosis and type 2 RTA being osteomalacia, rickets, and the type 1 and type 2 RTA have hypokalemia, in contrast to type 4 RTA where hypokalemia is present, and the location is distal tubules in type 1 RTA, proximal tubules in type 2 RTA, and renal and type 4 RTA. Thank you.